Hey guys, what's up? It's Fern. Thank you so much for joining me for another PLANTY video. I hope that you are doing so well. Happy 2024. I hope that your January has been off to an amazing start so far. This is going to be my first video going up in January, so of course we are going to be talking about how I'm going to be approaching the next year, and I guess this is technically going to be like my 2024 PLANTY goals video, but it's going to be a little bit different this year. I've spent a lot of time kind of reflecting on how I can have my best year yet in this hobby and what things are really going to improve not only my plants, but my relationship to my plants and my enjoyment of my plants. So I've decided that instead of picking, usually I pick about 10 plants that I really want to focus on and I really want to transform, and that's really fun. I love that. But this year I'm going to be taking a broader approach, and I'm going to be, just implementing habits and routines and things that are really going to help my plants as a whole thrive rather than just the select few that I'm really pouring my energy into. Not that I really did that last year if you watched my 2023 wrap-up video, but you know what I mean. By focusing on the things that I'm going to talk to you about, I feel like all of my plants are going to have the opportunity to do better. I think that these thoughts that I'm going to share are going to be especially applicable if you're someone who has felt at all overwhelmed with your plant collection, or like it doesn't bring you as much happiness as it used to. Maybe you're losing interest a little bit. Maybe you feel unorganized and all over the place. Same. So truly the most important thing to me is the enjoyment of this hobby. I do not want to lose that. I love plants. They make me so happy. I love growing them. I love this community, and I don't like when I feel burdened or overwhelmed by them. That makes me lose that feeling, that joy and that happiness that they bring me. And I don't want to lose that magic. You know what I mean? Like, it's so fulfilling to have a hobby that you're passionate about, and I just don't want to turn it into something that just feels like a chore for me. So that's something that I'm really going to be focusing on this upcoming year. So I made a list of some improvements that I can make and some things that are going to help nurture my relationship with my plants, and they seem to fall into two categories. The first one was less overwhelm, things that are going to decrease my feeling of overwhelm. And then the second one was more joy, things that are going to bring me more joy and happiness with my plants and just lend to the general enjoyment of this hobby, I suppose. So I've grouped all of my thoughts into those two categories. A few of them overlap, but we're just gonna chat about them. So this is just gonna be laid back, kind of podcast style. So feel free to just listen along as you take care of your plants or do whatever you're doing. By the way, this video is brought to you by Ritual, which is perfect timing, so thank you so much to them for sponsoring. Taking my Ritual Essential for Women 18 Plus multivitamin is a habit that I am definitely carrying into 2024. I'm excited to be talking about it today because they currently have on their New Year's sale where they're offering 40% off of your first month, and that is the best deal that I've seen from Ritual. I guess a theme for me this year that you'll probably notice throughout this video is that I'm really trying to trade in lofty goals that kind of overwhelm me for just simple daily habits and routines that I can implement to really improve different aspects of my life. Ritual makes it easy for me to fill in any dietary gaps that I may have with just one simple product, Essentials for Women. I just take 2 capsules a day, and this works to support my brain and bone health, blood building, and antioxidant support. What makes Ritual stand out to me is, of course, their transparency. Their products are backed by a visible supply chain, the first of its kind, which is really cool, so that you can see where each ingredient has come from and why it's included in the product. They also go above industry standards in regards to testing every batch for microbes, heavy metals, and allergens, and they seek the most rigorous certifications. They are vegan, major allergen-free, non-GMO project verified, and gluten-free. I love how committed Ritual is to offering a safe and effective multivitamin, and I feel really good about taking it. Like I said, Ritual is having their big New Year's sale right now, so if this sounds like something that you would also like to implement in 2024, make sure you take advantage of this offer as it is only for a limited time. You can scan the QR code on the screen, or you can go to ritual.com/wildfern40 to get 40% off of your purchase. Thank you so much for Ritual. Now let's hop into what my 2024 is looking like. Okay, I have my little notebook where I've written everything down. I find it so helpful to just sit down and organize my thoughts, like about anything. I've done this a couple of times in regards to plants, but also in, a lot of different aspects of your life. You can just sit down and kind of just brain dump, brainstorm. That's how I usually start. I just write down my ideas and then I organize it afterwards. I mean, sometimes I don't even organize it. Honestly, I didn't even really organize this. I just used different color markers and little symbols to kind of put the order to kind of like group things together and figure out the order that I'm going to tell you about these. Okay, so like I said, the two themes that I've really noticed happening when I listed everything down onto my paper were things that decrease overwhelm and increase joy. And isn't that what we all need in pretty much every part of our lives? Like this can apply. I feel like I've cracked a code here. I feel like I need to go through every aspect of my life and make a list of things that are going to decrease overwhelm and increase joy for me. But that is a whole other video. Today we're talking about plants. And I guess I'll briefly talk about just how I've been feeling this past year with my plant collection. And I know I'm not going to go too far into this because I'm a broken record. Last year was busy. I feel like my plant collection, I mean, it's on the mend now, but I definitely, in the past few months felt like my plant collection was just looking the worst it ever has. And that sounds very dramatic, but it's just the way I feel because I wasn't putting in the work and the effort, and I was not organized. So my plants were suffering a little bit. It's fine. We're all going to go through busy times in life, and that's fine. But I've definitely just come to the time where I need to just get organized again for my own sanity here. So that's kind of the less overwhelmed portion. And then the more joy portion is kind of like the fun. These kind of remind me of like, the right and left side of the brain. Like the less overwhelm is more like logistics kind of stuff, like what can I do for my schedule and my routines and like organization. And then the more joy part is the kind of like artsy, fun, creative, what can I do to just make my plants more interesting to me, what can I play with regarding like plant styling and all that kind of stuff. To me, these two things are like two sides of the same coin. They're gonna work synergistically together, and I'm hoping that I'm just gonna get my collection on track for the new year. I mean, I've already been doing better the past month, I would say. I've been a lot more on top of things, so I'm going into the new year off to a great start, so that's excellent. Also, I just wanna say before we start that this is just plants, and it's not that serious. I just enjoy kind of doing these reflections and kind of deep diving into it and discussing because, I don't know, it's fun to just sit down and chat, don't you think? But I know it's just plants. And yes, I'm going to be like kind of overanalyzing everything, but it's just because I want to. Just saying that because sometimes I get comments of people saying that I put too much pressure on myself and things like that. So yeah. It's kind of just for funsies, but it's also like, this is the direction that I do want to go in, and these are my thoughts. Let me know if you like these just like chatty videos, by the way. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about, which is to me the most like obvious and straightforward thing, and that is sticking to beneficial routines. So sticking to my watering, my moss pole maintenance, those kind of like daily things. It really makes a huge difference in my collection when I'm going around every morning, when I'm having my coffee or whatever, and have my little squirt bottle and I'm touching up any plant that needs to be touched up water-wise, any pole that needs to be touched up, and just kind of taking note of how plants are doing. I spot things, much faster than I would in regards to like pests and any sort of anything funky going on. You spot those things when you're doing your rounds, you know? I feel like it really works best for me just to have a designated time to walk through my collection and do that. And for me, it is usually first thing in the morning. And it's honestly an enjoyable way to start my day. So I kind of love it. And I don't know why I fall off of it sometimes. I think I fall off a track because I'm going through a busy period or something like that. And then once I'm off track, it's hard to get back on. So I just try to stay on as much as possible. And I've been pretty good about this recently, I will say. And also, of course, sticking to my watering routine. For a while, I kind of didn't have a watering routine for a lot of last year. And then I tried to just like do 2 mass waterings a week. And that didn't really work for me because I'd be like busy one of those days or something, and then I'd fall behind and blah, blah, blah. So now what I'm doing is just doing a small amount of plants. I mean, it's still usually quite a few plants because I just have a lot of plants, but I choose a section and I do that every morning. So just like dedicating a period of time, like 30 minutes or whatever, every day to watering. Obviously it's going to vary based on how many plants you have, but for me, I usually water for like 30 minutes to an hour a day. Watering does take me kind of a long time because I bring all of my plants to the sink. But yeah, just staying on top of doing that, because once I fall behind, it's just chaos, it's overwhelm, and I don't like it. So this is just my reminder to myself to just stay on track. And this also goes for other things like fertilizing. For example, I am back to using my Hoya mist, which I'm trying to do once a week, and I have done it 2 weeks in a row now, so I'm feeling really good about that. And honestly, my Hoya are kind of popping off, so is it because of that? I don't know. I do have I think I said this in my last video too, but I do have the recipe for my Hoya mist that I make as a YouTube short, so you can go check that out. Maybe I can link it in the description, actually. I probably can. So yeah, there's just these routine things that we need to do every day or every few days or every week as plant parents, and I want to stay very much on top of those things. I feel like that is honestly the biggest part of the puzzle, the PLANTY puzzle, if you will, because once I'm on top of that, it allows me to be more on top of other plant tasks that need to be done, like repotting and stuff, which brings me to my second point. Planning ahead. I have never really been one to schedule when I'm going to repot plants or extend poles or do anything like that, like any other stuff that's outside of my regular routine stuff. I have not been one to plan that. I just kind of will do things. Usually when they're way past overdue, I'll just do them like, I don't know, usually when it gets too bad to ignore. But going into this year, I really want to I don't think I'm at the point yet where I can anticipate when a repot's gonna come up because I am so backed up. I'm not kidding you, I probably have like 50 to 80 repots that need to be done right now. Like, it's bad. So I'm hoping that once I'm caught up, I'll be able to kind of plan ahead. Like, oh, this plant is due for a repot. Let me put that in my schedule for next week. I basically want to prevent myself from falling behind as much as I currently am because the plants will suffer. If you push repots like 8, 9, 10 months overdue, you're gonna get smaller growth. They're not gonna be happy. So that's just an example of something that I want to anticipate, and also, like pole extensions, because poles are kind of useless if you're just letting them grow over and you're not extending them in time. So these are all things that I can just put into my schedule. Even now, even though I'm behind, I can say I'm gonna pot my Anthurium minahasa, my philodendron orange marmalade, and my Anthurium viridifolium next Tuesday. Like, I can just put that in my schedule, and once it's in, I'll do it. I'll see it and I'll do it. I plan out everything else in my life. I have our whole week meal plan done. I have my content scheduled or not scheduled, but like planned out for the whole month. I have, my days planned out. So if I actually just take the 5 minutes to walk around and see what needs to be done, put it in my schedule, like, I feel like I'm like 80% more likely to do it. So yeah, I'm just really hoping to to plan ahead a lot better when it comes to plant care and plant chores. Because like I said, right now I'm just waiting until things are way overdue, and it's just not the vibe, and it makes things less enjoyable too. Something that I maybe should have mentioned when I was talking about my watering routine and stuff is something that I've really been trying to get into my head recently, and I have been, and it has been helping me out. And I've talked about this. I did a video kind of like this on my Patreon a couple of months ago that I really liked, where I was just kind of had a bunch of reflections on my plant collection and how it was kind of tanking and how I was going to improve it. And this is something that I was talking about then, and it is that a quick job is better than neglect. Because oftentimes I will see a plant, for example, I'll see a plant that needs to be watered, and I will say, okay, I'm going to be watering tomorrow, so I'll do it tomorrow. Or I'm going to be watering later today, so I'll do it later today. And then if for some reason that watering doesn't happen later today or it doesn't happen tomorrow, then that plant is going for days and days without water. So I want to just, if I see that a plant needs something, I want to just address it then and there, even if it's just a quick job. Like, I guess I get in my head thinking that I need to do things thoroughly, but if a plant is thirsty, giving it a little bit of water with my squirt bottle is going to be more beneficial than waiting, 2 or 3 days and giving it a thorough drenching in the sink. Yeah, that's just a quick little tidbit. A quick job is okay sometimes, and actually very beneficial sometimes, and it is okay to do that. Something else to decrease my overwhelm is to set up my plants for the long term as soon as possible. And this is a revelation that I have been having over the past couple of months, mostly because of my frustration with the small moss poles that I had a lot of my plants on, because they just outgrew those so quickly. I didn't really want to extend them because they were so narrow and just honestly kind of useless. So that's just an example. So moss poles is a good example of this. As soon as my plants can go on a big moss pole, that's what I'm going to be doing, because even if it seems, like too much for it now, it's not, because that plant's going to grow. If I want that plant to eventually be like a big climbing plant, it just needs to get on its like permanent size of moss pole as soon as possible. And going into the new year, I think that I am exclusively going to be using my Rousseau poles, because they're just my favorite when it comes to closed back moss poles, and wire poles. And if you watched my last plant chores video, you would see that I recently got a massive roll of wire mesh. So I'm going to be making my own wire poles, and we'll see how that goes. But I'm hoping that they're going to be sturdy and something that I can use for the long term. I have high hopes, so we'll see. But as time goes on, I kind of figure out what works best for me, and that's just something like small poles and just stuff that my plants are going to outgrow super, super quickly. Those are just things that I'm just kind of, it just doesn't make sense for me, because I'm just going to need to address it, in like a couple of months. When I repot a plant or put it on a pole or anything, I just want it to be good to go for as long as possible. And then the last point that I have for less overwhelm is to organize my potting supplies. And I guess not even my potting supplies. This is just a big one that I've been thinking about recently, because I am kind of restocking all of my potting supplies. I just ordered perlite, bark, and a bunch of stuff, pumice, vermiculite. So I need to really organize my potting supplies, because I've been using just these small bags for a while, which is just not cutting it. So I've just ordered really big ones, and I'm gonna have to come up with a new organizational system. And I know that Sydney Plant Guy has that like plant bar situation, which looks awesome. So I'm thinking of trying to do something like that in the closet that I have my plant supplies in. But just in general, keeping things organized, keeping supplies stocked too, because I'm really bad about letting things run out. And then that also contributes to my, plant chores, plant tasks getting pushed off until whenever, and it's not helpful. So yes, come up with a system to organize my potting mix supplies, keep all of my plant supplies in general organized, which I've actually been really good about, because I've been doing my monthly, or I guess bi-monthly, plant resets, and I've been sharing those videos with y'all. So if you're looking for like planty organizational / planning content, then I can link those videos in the description box for you. But yeah, I've really been enjoying doing those resets and just kind of staying on top of things monthly and kind of staying committed to that. So I'm going to be doing another reset video for February. So you'll see that at the end of January. But yeah, just staying physically organized is going to be very helpful for me. Okay, so now we're moving into the ones that kind of were both creating less overwhelm, but also cultivating more joy. They kind of fit both of the categories. So I have a few of them, and I guess I'll share those ones now as we transition into the more joy section. So the first one that I have down is to keep things simple with room for experimentation. So this is something that honestly is kind of hard sometimes because, especially with social media, people are always trying new products, always coming up with like a new amazing potting medium or potting mix or this like just new way to do something. And I have to really reel myself back in sometimes because I find that I get less overwhelmed when I just keep things simple. For example, my DIY potting mix. Right now, it's literally just potting soil, perlite, and bark, and that's it. And that works well for me. It's the most cost-effective way to do things, and it works. And if it's not broken, don't fix it, you know? So that's kind of what I have to remind myself of, because when I have a million things to choose from, I get overwhelmed. When I have a million things that I need to buy, I get overwhelmed. The potting mix is just an example, but I feel like this is applicable to just so many areas of this hobby, but I'm just trying to really figure out what works for me and just go with that. However, I wrote with room for experimentation. And that is the joy kind of side of this, because a really, fulfilling and fun part of this hobby is to experiment. So I'm not saying I'm never going to try a new potting amendment, or I'm never going to, try a different way of propagation or whatever. Because it's fun to kind of allow yourself to play a little bit. So I don't want to completely take that away from myself, because I love it. I love it so much, and I just really appreciate that part of this hobby, and I want to be able to try new things out. But I think I just need to remember that, like, for the most part, by this point, I know what works for me, and it's just, I like to just stick with that, I guess. I guess it's kind of finding a balance, really. But this is just my message to myself, because I get really tempted to, want to like get everything and have a million options of things in my plant cupboard and, whatever. So it's just better for my brain if I keep things as simple as possible. The second point honestly kind of goes along to that. It is continue to figure out what works for me and adapt my planty practices to those things. And then I wrote as an example using plastic pots over terracotta. So I used to love terracotta. I used to have honestly almost all of my plants potted in terracotta like a couple of years ago. And now I've just found that plastic nursery pots with a nice cover pot over top is my preferred potting setup, I guess. It works best for me as an underwaterer. And I love using the clear nursery pots that I can see what's going on with the roots. And then you can kind of switch out the cover pot. There's more styling options. It's just, it's aesthetic and it's functional, I suppose. So that's just something that I've really learned along my journey. And I'm really at the point where I have learned some things. I've learned what works for me and what hasn't when it comes to a lot of different things. And I just need to continue to change my plant care and my habits and everything to what I find works better for me. Like I said, switching my moss poles and stuff like that. And that just makes the plant care easier, and it makes me enjoy my plants more. Okay, the third one for this kind of in-between category is actually my favorite one, and one that I'm hoping this is honestly a bit of a long shot, because I've wanted to do this in the past and I haven't been able to stick with it. So I'll be so happy if I can actually do this, but it is to log my plants in Planta, the Planta app. If you're not familiar with it, it's a plant care app. A lot of people use it it will like prompt you when your plants need to be watered or fertilized and stuff like that. But what I really like about it is that you can add photos. You can like add your plant in, and then you can add photos, and you can update it with notes and update it with photos, and do that like however often, whenever something's going on with your plant. Say you repotted it, you can put a note of what potting mix you put it in. Or if I fertilize with my Osmocote or something, I can put a note of when that was, treating for pests, anything. I just love that you can just document. It's kind of like a journal. And I'm getting into journaling now. If you watch my vlog channel, I considered doing this in a physical journal, but I just think it would be hard to do. And I love having the photos because that's kind of part of this. I love having photos to look back on and to share with you guys in videos. So I can show you what a plant looked like a year ago and stuff like that. I just have the free version of Planta, and I don't know if there's a limit to how many plants you can add or like how many updates you can make for that plant. Hopefully there's not, but there might be. I honestly have no idea, but it's just something that I would love to do. I'm gonna try to go the Planta method, the Planta app route, but if there is a limit or something that doesn't work for me, I'll probably try to do some sort of online, I don't know, online spreadsheet or online document or something, because I really want to have somewhere where I can just list out all my plants and list out like when important things happen with them, so I can go back and reference. Because for example, recently my medium silver has really tanked, and I couldn't remember like when was the last time I put fertilizer in, when was the last time I did this or that. And it would have been so helpful to me to have that information to be able to reference, so I could that could inform my troubleshooting. So it's something that is both useful, but also just brings me a lot of happiness and satisfaction to be able to kind of document and track what is going on with my plants. So if anyone does that in any way, shape, or form, like on paper, on computer, on an app, leave me a comment down below. I would love to hear. Hello. I ended up getting interrupted yesterday, so it's the next day now, and we're gonna finish this off with the more joy category. So the first thing that I have on my list is to get rid of plants that I am not excited to care for. This is kind of something that I've always done. I am definitely not new to getting rid of plants, and I have zero problems doing it. If a plant is not making me happy, get out of here, because it becomes such a chore to care for them, and that's just so unenjoyable. I can tell which plants are my top favorites, the ones I'm obsessed with, just by how I feel in having to provide them care. Like for example, I'm really into my Calathea warshawixii right now. I'm converting it to pawn, and it's doing really well, and I love it so much, and I just get so excited. Like I honestly want to dote on that plant. There's a moth outside the window. I want to helicopter parent that plant. Like I am eager to wash its leaves and just provide it care. So I know I'm obsessed with that plant. Like I'm happy to do it. I enjoy doing it. I'm obsessed with that plant. But there are other plants that I honestly am just like, ugh, like I've actually recently gotten rid of a fair amount of plants. Some of them I ended up just taking cuttings from that I'm gonna restart, and some of them I just completely got rid of. Most of them were not in good shape, so I ended up just tossing them, but I did sell my Hoya Sunrise a couple of days ago, and that was kind of bittersweet because it grew into such a big, beautiful plant, but it was bringing me zero joy. Like I had no inspiration it needed to be repotted, it kept falling down, and it just honestly annoyed me so much. So I was like, you know what, this plant is gonna make someone else really happy. So someone picked it up the other day, and she was so excited. I'm in this perpetual state of curating my collection and figuring out what plants are really to my taste, I guess. And yeah, it feels good to get rid of the ones that are just not for me. I want all my plants to be bringing me that feeling of like eagerness and excitement to care for them. Okay, the next one is one that I'm really excited about, and something that I really want to put a lot more effort into, and that is leaning into plant styling and trying out new things. So I wrote, focus more on pots and different ways to display plants, because that's something that genuinely makes me love this hobby so much, and that I just really appreciate. Like, I love when I see people have a really cool plant setup, or have found some unique way to display a plant, or have a plant in a pot that just suits it perfectly. Like, I love that kind of stuff. I love the really creative aspect of this hobby. I feel like this hobby really blends science and art so beautifully, and that's something that I really appreciate about it. But yeah, I really want to just lean into the more creative side and just, yeah, maybe experiment a little bit with what I like. I just want to explore that a little bit more, because right now I don't really have anything too exciting. Like, most of my plants are just potted in, standard pots. There's nothing too experimental or too crazy, which is fine, but it's going to be fun to play around as well. So if you have any ideas, like any cool things that you've seen, leave a comment or send it to me on Instagram or something, because I would love to check it out. Next thing on my list is to not worry about what everyone else likes. And I feel like, it seems so simple, and everybody says this, like, don't worry about what's trending or what other people like, not just in plants, but in everything. Like, that's the advice that people give, but I feel like we all, like, it's hard to escape being influenced, and it's hard to escape falling into hype. If you're on the internet, I feel like to some degree, you're going to be influenced by what is really popular, what people are showing. I've definitely been influenced by what's trending, and what plants everybody's posting, and what plants everybody is kind of getting at a certain time. But I'm just realizing more and more what plants truly make me happy, and often those are plants that are not the popular plants. Like, right now I'm really into begonias and carnivorous plants, specifically pinguicula. Those are plants that make me so happy, but they're just not the popular plants. Like, even when I create content about those plants, it is always going to get the lowest views type of thing, and I just really have to get past that and not care, because I love them so much. I just wish, like, I don't even care that they're not popular. I just wish more people got the hype, because I love growing them so much. So yeah, I guess just kind of going in my own direction with my plant taste. And of course, I do really love a lot of the plants that are popular, like monsteras and big philodendrons. Sorry, I'm really hot. I have no idea why I'm wearing this sweater in here. It's 24.3 degrees. But yeah, I want to continue to dive into the plants that really interest me, whether or not they interest other people, and learn about them more, and just, yeah, because that's something that I find really fulfilling. So, oh, was that the last one? No, the last one is this is actually really important for me as well, and that is to plan intentional off-camera time with my plants. Off-camera plant chores, plant care time, because this is a whole other thing, this whole, like, blending your hobby with your job, with your work, that, has been known to suck the joy out of hobbies real fast. So I try to combat this and think of things, like this whole list, think of things that I can do to maintain my love of this hobby. And one of them is definitely to just take my own time. When I get to just be with my plants and I don't have to worry about a camera angle, I don't have to worry about explaining what I'm doing, I can just zone out, get into flow state, or I can, listen to an audiobook, or just do whatever I want, just relax and spend time with my plants. That's so important for me. So that's something that I am going to try to carve out intentional time for. So yeah, that one is kind of specific to, I guess, content creators, or even people that work with plants. Like, if you work at a plant shop or in a greenhouse or something, I can imagine that maybe sometimes you feel burnt out, like with plants. You're working with plants all day at work, and then you come home and then you have your own plants demanding your attention as well. Anyways, yeah, I'm so excited to just focus on these things more throughout the year, and just try to have a really great year. Try to lean into, the things that make me happy, find creativity within this hobby, and mindfulness, and Hopefully my plants will thrive, hopefully I will thrive, and we'll all just have a great time because I'm gonna take you with me. So hopefully this was interesting or maybe helpful to listen to. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Of course, share your thoughts with me down below. I would love to read them. Once again, thank you so much to Ritual for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget to check out their New Year's sale. You can get 40% off of your purchase when you go to ritual.com/wildfern40. I'll leave the QR code here on screen as well. I guess that's gonna be it though. I think that we have gone through my whole list, so that's excellent. I've already planned out all of my content for January, and my new posting schedule is going to be Mondays and Thursdays for this channel, so yeah, I'm trying really hard to stick with that, and yeah, hopefully it's going to go well. Anyways, that's it. Again, Happy New Year. I hope that your January is going awesome. I'm sending you all my love, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!
Try